I'm once again wearing a microphone that makes me look like a boy band member performing on stage. But if you have been listening to the podcast since I started hosting, you know that usually means a special edition is coming your way. And besides, speaking of wearable technology, that's exactly what this edition of the Weekly is all about. Coming together after the Qualcomm Snapdragon Wear event, we have a lot of special guests today to talk about the Snapdragon Wear 3100 and what it means for our smartwatches. And given the fact that this is one of the only times during the year that we can all congregate into one place, and I have the ability to press record on it, we do talk a little bit about the trials and tribulations of being a creator. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 323 of The Weekly, brought to you by Pocketnow and XDA developers, recorded on Monday, September 10, 2018. From smartphones, we move to smartwatches and all of the different types of wearable tech that they still aren't releasing, but you wish you had when you were a kid. So let's go ahead and get chatting. I am your host for The Weekly. It's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? And we are joined by Jaime Rivera, the host of the Pocketnow Daily. You all know who he is. I'm sure a lot of you will be really excited to know that after I took on hosting this podcast, I was really happy to get Michael Fisher, the Mr. Mobile himself, to come back to the podcast. After all, this was his baby once upon a time, and he has given his blessing for me to take it on to, in his words, evolve it further. We're also joined by Danny Winget, who is always fun to be around, and we're really happy to have him on the podcast. Also with us is someone you may know as Tech Me Out. Jervina Coston is on the podcast. And then finally, we have some chime-ins from one Russell Hawley of Android Central, who was accompanying Michael Fisher on our journey to the breather room, where we finally were able to record this podcast. There are a lot of big names on this podcast for today, so make sure you head over to the show notes if you want to follow any of them across social media or on their own respective YouTube channels. They also give their shout-outs over at the end of the episode, so make sure you stay tuned until the end for that as well. But with that said, let's go ahead and fade into our episode on a coffee-fueled afternoon in San Francisco. Exactly. Pick up that mic. Let's do this.
Yeah.
No, I'm doing the intro afterwards, so we're just gonna...
All right.
We're fading in right now.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. I can't believe you got the reference design watch.
I have to give it back.
Okay, fine. But I actually think it looks kind of cool.
That's sweet. I would
Really?
totally take
Yeah.
that.
So what
Are
I
you
like about it
serious?
is the rotating crown.
Yes.
Or the rotating side button, or RSB, is what you're
RSB.
referring to.
RSB.
RSB, where they get that.
It's the internal Google nomenclature for the best feature of a Wear OS device.
Where did you get that information?
Michael just brought
I
out
asked a bunch
nomenclature.
of them at I.O. I was like, hey, you guys just released the LG Watch Sport meatball. And it has a great rotating thing. What do you call the crown? And they're like, the RSB.
Oh my
Like,
God.
sweet.
Wow.
I'm into it.
You felt so Star Trek right there.
Yeah, man.
So why don't we get like a small recap of like what is like it's being covered by all of the coffee everyone needed to be on the cast, but we have the chip right here.
The chip is actually in there.
Yeah.
The co-processor.
Way in there.
But you got to say the
No,
full.
that's
You got to say the full
processor.
name.
No, it's the co-processor.
Yeah.
So they told
Qualcomm
me that no,
Snapdragon
that is
Wear.
the processor and that the co-processor is in there.
Okay, so what we're looking at, JV, is what like a tiny little thing that's what, a quarter the size of a pinky nail.
It
right?
looks like a very small piece of black tape.
So freaking micro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was led to understand that this was the co-processor, which was part of a
But that's
larger
what
wafer.
Oh, it says it does say
But it's not.
featuring the.
So that's the whole thing we're looking at? The whole
Yes.
3100?
That is the whole 30.
That is
Russell
not
is-
right.
is-
Russell's like looking at, yeah. You want to?
Why not? Yeah.
Russell Holly from
come
across the
over.
room.
Come over here, man.
It's a party.
Okay, so this is actually the Snapdragon 3100 is the same SoC as the 2100. It's the same
Yeah,
28 nanometer
correct.
process,
Yeah.
which, by the way, is twice the size of the chip that's in the new Samsung Galaxy Watch. The thing that is different is this co-processor, which is separate. So it's actually the same physical hardware with this separate, smaller, and that's why they're making such a big deal out of the co-processor being so much smaller. Because they intentionally didn't tell us that the regular processor for this is actually the exact same physical size because it's the same silicon
Yeah.
as the original processor.
I'm glad I had made my script for my video. Thank you.
So this is
Russell.
just somewhat misleading like text on here because it says it's basically something marketing the platform and then
Josh
saying
is holding up a
featuring.
lucite block containing
Yes.
the co-processor.
the
Yeah.
co-processor.
You can actually take it apart. And pull it
Yeah,
out.
you
and if
can.
you take it apart while recording a video for Danny,
Yes.
the co-processor will fall out and be lost.
Yes.
Sorry.
Correct.
That thing is tiny though.
It is very small.
Very
So-
teeny.
So let's for anybody that doesn't know what we're looking at here and why this is so important today in particular, what is this coprocessor looking to do in the Snapdragon 3100 platform?
Who wants to take it away?
I think the importance of this coprocessor is obviously to give you the best battery life, which is the biggest flaw I think in any smartwatch right now, is because you're charging it daily or you're charging it once every 2 days. And this is an ultra low power processor or coprocessor to help with those things. And it's an independent processor on its own, which is kind of interesting that they would still use this part of an SoC where you have essentially a main processor and a coprocessor when that can actually function on its own already.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it's interesting.
Anybody else before I take it over?
Oh, because you've been looking at this thing for all day.
So
basically.
we had a long conversation at our podcast last week.
Yeah.
Over my disappointment.
I told him about that, yeah.
Smartwatches. My disappointment about smartwatches is an always-on display that's not so good or limited. My disappointment has always been that fitness on Wear OS is terrible, with the exception of the Polar M600. And then my other disappointment is obviously, battery life. Just, it's not great. And so it seems that this 3100 is addressing all of this through that coprocessor. That coprocessor takes over whenever you're not using the watch for launching applications, which nobody uses apps on smartwatches anyways.
True.
I mean,
Hardly anyone
I don't
does.
think. Yeah, I feel like a lot of us are in that boat, but
And we're the geeks that are supposed to tax them.
Yeah, right. Whenever I fire up a smartwatch app, it's very typically to do it for a review video, right? And
Yeah.
it was like, here, you can play Tetris on it or whatever. It's like, or Spotify will help you if you want to download offline music and stuff. But all these use cases are so far outside of what I use a watch for.
Exactly.
Yeah, I typically use them just for notifications and.
Oh, you're telling me you don't
time
watch
keeping.
videos on your Galaxy Watch?
Weird, right? Yeah.
You can only watch Snapchat.
Come on, man! I'm
spectacles
watching
footage.
full-length movies.
By the way,
Not really.
I playfully despise all three of you right now. I'm the only one. The host of this podcast does not have a Galaxy Watch.
Oh,
Wow.
I did not realize that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry, man.
Sorry.
Oh,
Wait a second. But you're the host of this podcast is the only one with a yellow S Pen on the purple Samsung Galaxy Note 9.
Can you hand me my phone over
yeah,
there?
Of course I
actually?
can.
Thank you very much. I'm
How did that come to be, by the way?
okay. So I went with I got the lavender one, and actually you can get the S Pen for $50 at Best Buy. And on
Oh, they do
Amazon.
sell them separately then.
They do.
Even that leak was proved correct. Okay.
So there you go. And,
Nice.
I have the yellow S Pen here, and even though this was a lavender phone, I put a skin on the back, and then
Brought
just
to you
tried to
by
find
D-Brand.
Yeah, the villain of my favorite video game of all time, Mega Man X.
There you go, man.
There we go, man.
But anyway, I wanted to bring up the Galaxy Watch because first of all, you all have the 46 millimeter.
I think we all have the 46
Yeah,
millimeter.
I told them whenever you finally decide to get me one, I want the 42. So hopefully that'll
What's
be
the decision on the 42? Why?
Because I want to see how it is. I want to see how the watch performs and looks and like blends with the style when it's a lot more accessible to a lot of people. Because even the 46, if I were to put that on right now, I would probably feel a little bit.
No,
It feels a little too big for
I
me.
have thick wrists. I've taken it out for 3 runs already. I will tell you, it is heavier than the average fitness
Yeah.
watch for running.
You've also got like a big old
No, I'm not using this.
rolling garage door on there.
we are twins, by the way.
Yeah, I love those big
Twinsies,
beefy
man.
metal link wristbands.
but I
Yeah.
obviously switch and I go for the silicone band.
Well, because accessibility on a smartwatch is kind of half the battle. If you're going to look at a slew of smartwatches and one of them is really big and you don't really, it's not that you don't like wearing it, but it's big, you're not going to wear it as much.
True.
So the 42, I want to see that actually make the difference
Gotcha.
in the design. Even if it's the pink one, I don't care.
But you do get hit with low battery life, though, right?
Exactly.
Because it's smaller, so you got smaller battery
Which is
life.
why
So
that-
how's the battery life for you guys? Because for me, it's.
I am finding it good.
I woke up one day and it was dead.
Yeah. So, do you leave always on display on?
No,
Is the
it's
number
off.
one question.
I don't. I turn
It's
it
off.
off.
I tried it. I
okay,
tried that
I-
the first day, and it was at 50% battery the next day.
I'm getting
I
3
feel
days.
like with any watch that does not have enough power to tell me the time, whether I'm looking at it or not, whether I'm moving it or not, like it's just I have a very hard time accepting. So I leave always on display on, and I get about 2 days to 2.5 days between
Jesus.
charges on the 46.
That is perfect.
I don't know if it's perfect. I
but
mean,
it's not what I'm getting.
It
Like,
needs more, but
yeah.
it's better than what was out there.
Well, one of the things that was announced today at the thing was that now the 3100 is going to have native support for, I think I read this right, for dual displays, right?
Yeah, dual
Correct.
display.
So
yeah.
the kind of stuff that TicWatch and Casio have been doing now will be natively supported. You won't have to get a manufacturer to do something special with it.
Yeah.
And
Which is fantastic.
That's great because
Really great.
that's what I'm so spoiled now by wearing those big chunky Casios all the time, which, for all the other things you can say about them, when the main display is off and that LCD is on up top, you can read it in any condition.
Yeah, I have the
and you don't
TicWatch
have
here
to,
as well, by the way.
And the TicWatch behaves exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, that's fantastic.
It just takes a long time to get from the minimal display back into. Just that amount of time is really annoying. Because
In
you're
my
basically
experience, it's not
powering
this-
it up.
It's not. Oh, you mean to switch out of? I'm sorry, to
Yeah.
switch out of the timepiece mode or the
Exactly.
low power mode.
Yeah.
You're booting the watch again.
Yeah, basically booting the
Yeah.
watch, and
No, I'm
that
sorry.
part's just kind of annoying.
I just mean when that secondary display comes on when it goes into standby.
Yeah.
So when the main display turns
That's
off,
awesome.
and then and
Yes,
it's
you're
like,
right.
oh,
That
it's
is
just terrific.
So what are your impressions over the 3100, Michael?
I was
'Cause
just looking at my favorite paragraph of my notes because it breaks down everything.
on a key 2, no less.
Indeed, I told you guys I was taking notes on the G7 and it didn't feel great typing on glass, so I busted out my key 2. It was a lot happier. Brought to you by BlackBerry.
Yeah.
Low power mode, power reductions versus the 2100. This is what I love. Low power mode uses 67% less power on the 3100. GPS uses 49% less. Keyword detection for OKG, 43% less. The clock update for once a minute, telling the time is 35% less. MP3 play with 34% of voice query. It takes so much less power to do everything.
Yeah.
And that should result in a lot better battery life. And then in the very next paragraph, they're like, 4 hours to 12 hours over existing designs. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like a lot.
That was a confusing slide, right? That was a
Yes.
very confusing slide.
But apparently, I think there's different ways to interpret that slide in particular, because 4 hours to 12 hours is like active use and not sitting there in standby.
Yeah.
So that could translate to a day and a half more power.
Of consistent.
The
Right.
thing is,
Yeah.
if you are within that 95-5 ratio that they came up with, where users 5% of the time just want the time and everybody else, users just want the time 95% of the time, and then 5% they'll be using the watch actively. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with that number?
I do, and I'm a big smartwatch fan, and I wouldn't say I use it more than 5% of my day.
I guess that seems a little middling. Like I wouldn't say that because I'm the smartwatch skeptic, and I feel like 5 is kind of low.
I feel it's low because of the amount of notifications we get.
Yeah.
But what do you
and-
do with the notifications, though?
But
You
that's
usually
the
just
thing,
swipe
but-
them away,
no,
and
but
then that's it? Or you
but
just
that's
look
the
at them
thing.
and you move on?
That's the thing. But the moment you do that, you automatically switch from the coprocessor to
the big processor, yes, correct.
So that 5%, at least in my usage scenario, that won't fly.
Yeah, I don't know. Go ahead.
Wait, but don't you have to actually physically touch the display to make
Yeah,
it go
see-
to the regular processor, correct?
Right.
Not the coprocessor. Or
So
is
does
the
the co- so how
coprocessor
does the
still handling that side of it, though?
Yeah. So does the coprocessor handle the notification side?
Yeah, so you
Yes.
get notifications,
Yeah,
but
there you
the
go.
moment you flip it on and activate the screen, you're back into the
A7.
regular platform and you're interacting with the watch.
But still, it's such a short time when you interact with the watch, and then
Yeah.
you're going back
Especially
to...
on Wear OS where you can't even read the damn notifications. Yes, of course.
That's true. You gotta tap and then go through it. And it's
Has
so
anybody
annoying.
used a new Wear so far?
We were about to. If this thing had
this
better.
watch had it, sadly.
Okay.
We
Well,
had the-
you've
the
had
reference
that time
designer.
with it, right, Michael?
Yeah, the Casio at IFA had it, and
It looks the same.
But what do you think?
What do
Is
you-
it dramatic?
what?
it looks
it
dramatically
looks
different to me.
nothing.
It looks better.
What are you talking about?
I feel
Looks
like
the
it's more
same?
functional.
Yeah, I agree. Like, basically, you've gone from this model where there's a lot of conflicting UI elements to, like, okay, swipe in from the 4 cardinal corners of the compass to do everything.
Did you
So-
say feng shui?
I don't know.
Which I would love to hear that term used for UI design. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very feng shui.
But it is, right? It's like you swipe down from the top for settings, you swipe up for notifications, you swipe left for Google Fit, you swipe right for Google Feed.
Or
And that's-
now. Just call it Google Now,
yeah.
basically.
And like
yeah.
that's super simple. And it's been overhauled to be black, like, so that if you have an AMOLED panel, there's not you're not senselessly illuminating a white card for no reason. You know, it's just like. It's
How are you expecting the
more
notifications from other applications? Because obviously it's in a controlled environment. You have Hangouts and you have, in this demo version. But like, if you have something from an app that usually populates so much data on a notification, wouldn't it kind of look weird there? Because you're gonna have to scroll past the amount of text that it's trying to render in that little.
Oh, in the notification window.
Yeah.
I imagine it probably does some smart. What do you call it?
Truncation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope so,
know.
because those everything was coming on perfectly. There was no truncation in the demo of the.
Right, because it's always Alice Yang
Exactly.
asking if you want to go hang out tonight.
I'm so sick of Alice. But yeah, I just wonder what it would look like if when it's truncated, it's going to be annoying. And it's always been annoying on a smartwatch.
For me, it's I don't know. I feel Wear OS has. I haven't had enough time with the new version. The things that would disappoint me the most were the fact that I needed another watch to be able to do fitness. It couldn't just be one watch for everything.
Yep.
And so I would Google Fit is the worst to start with. And so another thing that I like about this, this whole co-processor thing is the improvements to fitness and the fact that now OEMs will be able to tailor their own fitness algorithms to the watch. It won't be dictated by the Qualcomm chip.
And they integrated the GPS into the chipset now or something. What they said, sensor fusion or something, that they attached the GPS now to the chipset, so that's what makes it more efficient and faster. So that could be something where, I mean, for you, Jaime, you work out quite a bit when you run for long periods of time. I mean, like you said, if you can use one watch now to do fitness and your regular smartwatch stuff, this could be a big deal because, if you're running for an hour, hour and a half, and then that GPS is not it's not just obliterating your entire battery life.
Yeah, but the metrics that they provided were
a little bit weird. And they said the refresh was
for
different
example,
too.
just 3 hours for fitness? No. An Apple Watch will last a lot longer.
But didn't they say that during those situations it can go up to 15? Like concurrent?
Yeah, they said that it could.
In the case of theirs, but they were the standard of the industry right now is 3 hours for fitness activities. Not the case of the Apple Watch.
Oh.
The Apple Watch will last a lot longer than that. You could do a full marathon and still have enough juice to get home.
Yeah, because I've gone cycling with I usually do an hour and a half, and I don't find it because they were saying that it could deplete 50% of the battery life in that period of time, and I don't see that.
Like continuous GPS tracking with it and heart rate?
Yeah, but it doesn't take away 50% of the battery.
No. I can't wear a watch when I do martial arts, so I couldn't tell you.
Sorry. Sorry, Mr. Lee.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
you were roundhousing.
The GPS module. This is one of my favorite things about Qualcomm announcements, because they will sit there up on stage and literally tell you stuff like, we took the GPS module, we put it on a different place in the DSP, and they're made the power amplifier out of gallium arsenide this time. And I'm sitting there this is I am fully nerding out, and none of this is going to be useful.
You would be nerding out if you understood what they said, but we don't.
Yeah, I got it. It's but it was cool. It's we moved the GPS module a couple microns closer to this core component, and that is going to result in increased accuracy and better and more efficient power management. It's this kind of stuff, the kind of science that goes into this is really, really compelling.
You have to admire.
Yeah, of course.
We are the 5% of the 90 compared to the 95 that everyone else is just oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then we're the ones that are oh yeah, 2 nanometers.
Because I don't think people realize how hard that is probably in engineering.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
look at the size of that thing, and you have to think moving things just a little bit is.
Yeah, but it's just hilarious just from a consumer perspective. I've read comments where it's just 10 nanometers, but the other one is 14. It's better. I'm
oh, right, sure, yeah. No.
So bringing it back for a second to the Galaxy Watch, do we have any information as to what the SoC's architecture is and how
the
it's
Galaxy Watch?
doing?
No.
Nothing, right?
No, it's a smaller
It's the
nanometer. It's an Exynos,
right?
but it's
does it have
does
it have an ultra low processor?
But I think this is a new chipset, if I'm not mistaken.
That's a new chipset.
It's the same architecture, but actually it can't be the same architecture, but it's on a smaller nanometer process. But the performance is very similar to the older watch, like the Gear S3 Frontier and things like that. So performance-wise, but that's why it's getting better battery life.
I wish we had more of that info though, because this would be direct comparison.
To my understanding, the first company to ever come up with the concept in mobile for the co-processor that handled motion was Apple with the A7,
A7,
I think it was.
Wait, hold up. Was that before the Moto X first gen came out with its coprocessor that always monitored for the camera twist
That's
action.
a good question. I don't know.
And
that.
the
I don't
voice
know the
monitoring
dates.
before Google was doing it.
Well, yeah, we got a confirmation from Russell that Michael's right.
Yeah, because they had to have that for the voice stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because
that was the
before
coprocessor,
you
yeah.
could talk to any phone with
because
the
that
OKG
before was
command.
built into
Motorola
the-
was doing
which
it.
was
Yeah,
then
SoC.
cooked into the
But there was
801.
nothing before
Right.
that?
That, as far as I know, Motorola
No.
was the first one to implement
Oh,
that.
because I was nodding to the
approach.
Apple did it
Yeah,
first.
but it's so
not necessarily.
Point being is that now this, to our understanding, nobody has bragged about a coprocessor handling the light lifting on smartwatches.
On a
This would be
wearable?
the first.
I just wish we had that info because I really want to see a direct comparison because I'm excited to try the Galaxy Watch because I was a fan of the Gear S3 and I want it to last more than 2 days, and I'd really love to see that happen.
My Gear S3 would last 2 days.
Yeah, it would last 2 days for sure.
I want more
And the
than
charger.
that.
Yeah.
I want that 4.5. You know what I mean?
No, well, we really need a smartwatch
Charger.
last a week is what we need.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think I said that in your video.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Josh, and I know you're with me on this. We started with smartwatches with the Pebble, and you
Oh,
could
I
get
miss
4
my
days out of the
Pebble.
Pebble, even if you were using the hell out of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
tough to like it's tough to remove that memory once you have it.
Do any of you? Well, okay, you're wearing a Motive ring, so I know what the answer is to this question for you. But do you guys do any sleep tracking at all?
Yeah.
I
That's
don't
one of the
know.
reasons why I use the Galaxy Watch.
Yeah, because I use Sleep as Android, whether it's on the Galaxy Watch or on a Wear OS watch, and it has a companion app. But like it's using processing power overnight, so you're cutting more battery life. So I want that to be remedied by these new smartwatches. Otherwise, I'm going to remain a skeptic. That's why I have this. This lasts for 3 weeks.
But
What
form
is that?
factor is the
The
big
Mi
deal,
Band
though.
3.
Because, I mean, look at these watches. I mean, if you want a really slim design, you're going to get small battery unless the batteries change.
Yeah.
Battery tech has to change.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be the next revolution in everything. I mean, we just need better battery tech.
Very sorry.
Now you're awake.
Well, we have we had Russell a couple of times earlier, but Jervina, did you want to join us? Yeah.
Come through.
I'm going to surrender my mic for a hot second.
It became a party up in here. I like it.
Yeah.
But also, like we have like really soft lighting coming through the windows, so we're like all chilled out. And you're right, Danny. The moment I hit record, your voice changed.
It did, didn't it? I'm sorry, I had to go soft and mellow for this.
Oh my God, man. Danny.
Normally, I'd be a little wilder than this.
Well. Michael, could you, since
It's
you're
my
right there, can you
podcast
check
voice.
that it's looking okay?
Looking great.
All right, cool.
Card 1 is full. You're on card 2 now?
It's on card 2, yeah. All right. So why don't you give our audience a little bit of background with you?
All right, cool. Well, I run a tech channel on YouTube known as Tech Me Out, and on my channel, I pretty much cover a lot of like unboxings, tutorials, top Android apps, top iPhone apps. So, I guess I try to do a little bit of everything, but it's all tech based.
Welcome. We
Thank you.
apologize in advance for everything we talk about.
No worries,
Exactly.
no
I
problem.
know.
Well, how did you feel about the announcement today? I mean, we've been seeing you a lot at shows and whatnot more recently, and it was really fun to have you.
It's good to be there.
Around, yeah. So, how'd you feel about the 3100?
I like it. I know I was telling Danny earlier that I
You're
really
on an
like
Apple
the
Watch, by the way.
Hide that.
I just need to say
ASAP.
that real quick.
Right. Just point that out. Quick zoom in, I guess. But I like the fact that it does kind of merge what you would go to a smartwatch for and then a regular watch, so that you don't have to choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know sometimes that I do find myself torn based upon certain features that I may want in that moment. But I think the thing I'm really excited about is the fact that it's a little detail but big. You can always see your watch face with the
Yeah.
ambient display.
Totally.
That makes a huge difference. And it's like, I think I've gotten so accustomed to not being able to see it that when they said it, it was like, you know what?
Yeah.
That would be nice, you know? So,
So the only thing about the Apple Watch, two things about, well, it's not the only. There are
Yeah.
two things that the Apple Watch does great. Wrist detection is one of them.
yes.
It's the watch that gets it right every time. Like, it could be the smallest movement, but it knows exactly that the movement this way is not for the watch phase. Like, it knows which particular movement. It always works. And then the second one, like, seriously, fitness.
Yes.
It's very
Yeah,
accurate.
Series
Yeah.
1
in
was-
terms of smartwatch.
No, Series
Yeah.
1 is the worst. I still tell people do not buy it. Series 2 is like, it's launched. The apps will still not work that well.
Yeah.
But then you get 3, and I'm like, you're still not going to care about the apps.
Yeah.
But then the watch actually works really well.
Okay.
It's just the ugliest watch in the market.
And that's what I was going to talk about. Like,
Yeah.
I know some people have a preference towards a circular design or a square design. And I do have a Samsung watch at home as well, so I like the design on that better. It's something about the circular design. I don't know. It just looks better, I guess, because it's more like a traditional watch.
No, and for me, the materials as well, like aluminum. You drop that watch on concrete, it'll look horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they missed the mark on that because the watch is not very pretty whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think especially for females, I think it's even worse because you know like we can put like a metal band on it, make it chunky, make it look a little better, but for females it's really tough.
Yeah.
I have to admit. So we'll see what the new Apple Watch is not going to really be much different, honestly. I mean, it's got some, it's got a bigger display.
Rumors that they're doing that all the that there's going to be everything's going to be ceramic.
Yeah, the
I
backs.
haven't heard of that.
The backs are ceramic anyway.
But they're currently ceramic anyways.
Yeah.
Ever since Series 2, the back is ceramic.
But they want to do ceramic all the way around?
Exactly.
But how are they going to sell this for the same price?
That's a good question. Well, ceramic, here's the thing. When they came up with the Apple Watch Edition, I'm like, why is it so much more expensive just because it's ceramic? Like, sure, ceramic is not going to scratch like stainless steel, but it's not that much more expensive.
That's the Apple tax, man.
It's brittle, yes.
The Apple tax. You got to define that.
It's because you got the edition. That's why.
Yeah, but it's like...
How much was that one again?
$1,000.
yeah.
That was 1,000. Okay.
Wow.
And
My
so I'm
God.
like- I'm like,
Actually, no, it's more than
why?
1,000, isn't it?
1,000 something.
It's
Before
1,000.
tax.
Unless you
See,
wanted
Jaime is like 1,000
unless you
something.
wanted
It don't matter.
Unless you wanted the gold
It's
variant.
grand.
And you've got those 17,000K right there.
Yeah, that's expensive.
I will always cringe when I hear that number for
Yeah.
a watch.
It is wild.
Yes. Yes.
For a
But I think the
watch.
one thing that we forgot today was where I think another thing cool about the 3100 is that how you can pretty much shut off the larger processor, and like if you can always have the watch on,
And just
which
have
is
the
great
watch.
because like
Yeah, that's true.
when is the last time? I mean, I've done that plenty of times where if your watch is dead and it's still on your wrist, it is completely a brick. You can't do
Yeah.
anything with it.
It's a bracelet.
But with this, you can literally make the watch. You can have it function as a watch. And extend that battery life, which is I
didn't
think a
catch
big
that.
deal.
You can turn off the A7
Yeah.
completely?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Whoa.
See, that's a
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah, that is a really big
So
deal. Wow.
now you
And
can
so
have
if
a
it's-
functional watch without the
And
rest
if
of it.
it's
And it has
fully
the-
charged,
yeah.
if it's fully charged, it'll last you 30 days.
30 days.
And it has the dual display, so you can put that watch face on there, so you can
yeah.
have
So
the
you will
look
always
want.
have a functional watch. So now that's
Dude,
another
that's,
big deal.
That's what I'm telling you.
I'm
Like,
like,
That's where it's
yeah.
drawing
It's
that
game
gap
changing in the
between
smallest
two.
ways, I feel
Yeah.
like, but
Huh.
everything compounds
And
to
s-
be a big platform.
I did not catch that in
and
the
if you only
presentation.
have 20% battery, you can it'll give you the option to automatically switch, and the battery will last you for a week, just as a watch.
It kind of reminds me similar to the Note 9. I know, like, typically when I was on my iPhone and I'm on 20 to 30%, I get nervous because I know it's about to go
yeah.
down at any moment,
Yeah.
But with the Note, I didn't get that type of vibe. Like, when it hit that mark, I don't know, it's just working so well to utilize what battery life it has left. So it kind of puts me in the mindset of that, especially knowing that Qualcomm is powering that as well as with the watch.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Unless
it's
you're
a
in a
good
key
thing.
2 and 20% is like you've got 3 more days.
Yeah.
True.
Right, Michael?
Yeah.
we're in a really great place in terms of battery life when it comes to tech. Like, everyone's
Yeah.
making
But
those
it's
strides.
this year, and
Yeah.
I think it started with the Key 1 last year.
Key 1 was legendary.
Key
man.
1 was
Really?
legendary.
It was legendary
But
battery
you know
life.
what the problem? The funny part is, like, we went through the briefings, they sent us the units, and they never said that the battery life was legendary.
Yeah.
And it's not until I start using the phone and I'm like, oh, I'm still at 80%, and it's the end of the first day. And then the next day, oh, I'm still at 65%. It's the end of
Wow.
the second day, and I'm like, when were you guys going to tell me that this processor was so good? You know?
Well, that wasn't working with you.
But then
yet.
it started, then you used it for a while and it got laggy, and then that was an issue.
Yeah, well, no, it was always that.
After the honeymoon stage is over, then you're like, ugh. But, you know, yeah. No, but the battery
my
life.
Key 1 was always laggy.
Yeah. Oh, even from the beginning? Hey, shut this off, BlackBerry. Shut this off.
Hey, man, I'm still a proud Key 2 user, all right? And I want to put my Key 1 in a glass case and just be like,
Oh, wow.
I'm always going to...
So, 2 things that are missing here.
Mm-hmm.
Your keyboard and your pop socket.
Oh, I didn't want to put a pop socket on here until, like,
What's the
I was
excuse?
sure.
Oh, okay.
I was sure that the skin... Because
skin
when you
would
pulled
adhere.
the pop socket, I didn't want the skin to
I
start
was like,
peeling
this
off.
doesn't look like a JV phone.
Well, I mean, if you look at every other customization. Yeah.
He's got the
Look at
deuces on the
that.
front.
Got the skin
like
on
that.
the back. I like that one.
Yeah, I wanted a black and yellow phone, so when D-Brand was like, "Hey, did you get the Note 9?" I was like, "Yeah." And then at my doorstep was every single skin.
Nice.
That's how D-Brand rolls, though, man.
Yeah. And they gave me 2 of each. I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Dude, but for me, it's hilarious how much I complained about having the black Note 8. And just because it's so difficult to film and such a large phone, it's just the worst. And now that I have this blue Note 9, I'm like, oh. So I was looking at my comparison footage as I was putting the review together last night. And I'm like, God, that black Note 8 looked really cool anyways. Like, it looked really badass.
Yeah.
And so I was
Yeah.
like,
I would 100% get the black one and buy a yellow pen.
yeah.
100%.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah, that would be exactly what
That's
I do.
smart. I think, but I still think I like
But
the
I'm,
blue.
but I'm not buying
Yeah.
it. This is
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
That would be the Kill Bill edition.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
It would match. It would match my shoes. That's all I need.
But the
Yeah.
blue one is hot, though.
The blue one, I like the
Yeah.
blue because it's still, I don't know, like the fact that it's still kind of dark, like
Oh, you
black.
guys don't have the blue?
but
Just me?
yeah, I
I
have
have a
lavender.
blue one. I have a
Mine's
blue
in
one, too.
My bag over there, but I have the lavender.
You made the calls that you said you were going to make.
Yes, I
Interesting.
did.
There you go. This guy.
Yes, I did. I have 2 of them. Sorry.
There you
Or
go.
not, what is it, lilac, purple?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the S9.
No wonder
yeah.
you're using it without a case. You don't care.
I don't care. This one's already got a crack on it.
Oh no.
What?
It's been dropped. My
Wow.
son decided to swat this out of my hands.
Let me see.
There's a crack in the corner right here.
Ooh, dude.
Well, while you're looking-
but single hairline cracks, I believe, are covered by the warranty.
Oh, nice.
I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. But you can see the bottom where it hit right there.
Ooh.
But you know what? This thing came out, hit straight concrete, and did not. I mean, that's test,
trust
to,
me,
the,
it
test
did-
to the build quality.
It didn't on the first. Oh,
Yeah.
it will on the second.
I don't. You want to try it? Let's go.
The armor's
Hey,
integrity.
Samsung,
It's-
I'm gonna hit you up for a new unit, okay?
No.
Jaime's gonna go smash
we
this.
need a scene with Joshua Vergara being like, "It's drop test time."
Yes.
Oh my god.
We need those again.
That is such an old life.
Let's
of
go to
mine.
Hong. Was it at Hong Kong?
It was Hong Kong.
So let's go to
For-
Hong
for-
Kong
for
and
the
drop
iPhone.
this
That's an
again.
awesome video, man. Awesome video.
This was a long time ago. This is a former life of
Remember
mine.
that? Before we had slow motion, you slowed down the regular footage. And it was like,
Yeah, we're trying to use. What was the name of
And
that?
just-
I'm trying to remember the name of the plugin on After Effects. But yeah, exactly. And it
like-
would look all warped out and everything. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, doing drop tests now would be so easy.
because
So
like
easy.
you can just use phones now.
Yeah.
You have like awesome slow motion on phones, 1080p,
true.
and you just be able to
Just
set
need
it up
good
and
lighting.
run.
That's all.
Well,
Yeah.
you're dropping outside though.
Yeah,
It'd
it's in
be
the middle,
totally
in the
fine.
middle of Corey Bay, I think, in Hong Kong. Yeah, that was really easy
Yeah.
to do.
What were people thinking when they were seeing you do that on video? It's like,
I got quite a few looks, and we actually got a small crowd one time,
yeah.
and they were just watching, and they were just like, "What?" They're like, "Why did he do that?"
Oh, I can just see it now. I would say something now, but
Yeah.
I don't want to.
It's always like
You
that
can just hear the
moment-
accents going crazy.
Yeah,
That's
It's
all I'm
almost
gonna
like
say.
that moment of silence when a phone drops anywhere.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like everything just gets like quiet for a hot second. Like,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
everybody looks Wrangles.
Yes,
And they
yes.
always
yeah.
make the
Everyone
face
makes the
like,
same face.
yes.
Everyone makes the same
I
face when it
think
comes to all that.
filmmakers get it right when they slow-mo everything the moment that something's like falling or dropping or whatever, because that's literally how your mind works.
Yes.
The moment that phone is on its way down.
The only thing that beats the clattering to the ground sound is when you're on a plane and somebody drops a phone.
Oh,
and it just
thunk.
bunk. Yeah, because like that carpet is so thin and it just reverberates through the whole plane and everyone's looking under their chairs.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But even if they have the phone in their hand, they're looking still.
Oh, yeah.
Like, "Did I drop my phone?"
You
That
literally
is
did
true.
what I did
That is
what I
true.
did when I landed here. Because there's somebody like 2 seats down dropped their phone, and I was like, "Which one did I drop?"
oh my gosh.
So I
Didn't I hear you? Yeah, you. We were talking about this. You came with 8.
No, I brought the OnePlus 6. I brought the P20 Pro, the Pixel 2 XL,
Oh, okay.
the iPhone 10. Sadly,
Now creeping up to 8, bro.
I'm doing the math and the Note 9. That was it.
Okay.
No, we've been talking about the poor battery life on my iPhone 10. I'm charging it right
Yeah.
now.
You know, my,
Yeah.
my-
It's just
again, my
awful.
battery life on my iPhone 10 is not so bad because I rarely use it now. There was a time when it was like my go-to phone.
Yep.
And the biggest problem is I get comments all the time. They're like, "Why are you always using an iPhone? You're always using an iPhone," and I'm probably reviewing another phone. And I'm like, "Because you guys want Instagram stories," and they still suck on Android. They're better, but like this phone particularly will halt to a crawl the moment that you're using social media for some stupid. I think it's a bug within this phone.
I know.
Is it Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen that a couple times.
and also if you still have scene detection active on the phone, it'll take like a split second, but it'll pause like the viewfinder.
Yeah.
For some stupid reason. In the case of the Note 9. And so that's the problem. Like, if we want to do social media, we sadly have to carry a damn iPhone. If we want to do Q&A, like you remember when you wanted to do responses on your Q&A in video?
Oh, for my IG stories.
Yeah. For
Oh
IG
my
stories,
god.
Yeah. And then
It
Iso
still
was
pisses
like-
me off.
And then Iso was like, "You need an iPhone, babe."
Yeah. I was like, how do you get that picture in the background of your answers for the questions on IG
Yeah.
stories? And she's like, I'm on an iPhone. And I was using, what was I using? I was using OnePlus 6. And I was like, this is like one of the...
and I'm actually using the Instagram beta, and even there,
Still
like,
nothing.
that feature's not there.
so
Wow.
annoying.
Yeah.
See, and that's the thing, man. I mean, at least iPhone, you gotta give them that. Social
Yeah.
media always runs better.
But I don't think it's iPhone per se. I think it's developers. Developers just want to support iPhones because how many SKUs do they have to support? Like how many?
It's not as hard.
It's
you know?
not as difficult for
It's
them.
lazy developer. I'm just kidding.
No, but I mean, even like on Pixel and stuff, I mean, it should be a lot better. You know, like things coming up. Visual Core, with that support and all that should help
No,
a ton.
like they did the change. Like in the
Yeah.
past, Instagram, for example, was literally a screenshot of the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't really
wow.
the
It was
photo
not
being
from the
uploaded.
camera itself.
wow.
Yeah.
No.
But that's what Visual Core changed when they gave it that
Yeah.
access. Now it's coming from the camera instead of the screenshot stuff. So that's why Snapchat sucks so bad on Android.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Yeah, it's just never good. That's why you specs.
Yeah.
Where are your specs, by the way?
Okay.
That's proof over how little people care about Snapchat now.
Well,
Yeah, nobody talks about spectacles. They were like hard
No.
to find.
Unless
they-
you're
but
Michael
they just
Fisher or
released new
Justin
ones, right?
Bieber.
Released new
Yeah,
ones.
with the
Like,
designer.
They just
ones.
released
Right,
new,
right.
good-looking ones.
Yes, better looking ones. Yeah, so you don't look like such a douche when you're out there.
Exactly.
Because you do have that little bit of that factor when
No,
you're
and
wearing
imagine
the
my
yeah.
bulldog face with those spectacles.
Oh,
That's
man.
like the worst.
No, just imagine you running up to somebody
Which,
going,
by the
wait,
way-
wait, do it
Right,
again.
right. And then you see the
Which,
little
by the
ring.
way, that was one of my comments on my Note 9 review. Oh, he's like, great video, bulldog face. I'm like, damn.
Oh, man.
Damn.
Oh.
See, the internet is just cruel like
They
that.
are.
man.
They're savage.
I'm like, wait a second. So you're better looking than me? You should see the guy's face. It's like, seriously?
That's
So
internet
what
for
do
you,
I
man.
call you?
Right.
What, toad face or what?
right.
Should.
I love that this turned into like the trials and tribulations of the influencer.
Yeah.
Which is
Like-
great because these events are the only times that we all really get to get.
We talked
Yeah.
about
Have you
the
come-
3100 for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Have
Maybe.
you come
Yeah.
to accept the term influencer, Michael, by the way?
Why do you think I'm sitting over here?
He has disowned us.
I couldn't find a better word. I just hate that. Like media content producer. Like, okay, cool, but that's all I can really
You
think
know what
of.
the funny part is? That I was in Berlin on the metro, and there was this probably 16 to 17
I'm gonna bring it back to
year-old-
smartwatches soon. By the
Okay,
way, just so
okay.
you know.
There was this 16 to 17-year-old girl just standing, she was heading somewhere. Her makeup and everything clearly pointed out to somebody that was like into a lot of whatever, music or whatever. And her ID said influencer.
Oh,
And so I'm like, what are the boundaries of the term influencer?
Right.
It's super generalized, and actually, I'm not a huge fan of it either, honestly. But
So what do you like to refer to yourself as? Then?
well, I mean, we're just
He's Danny.
Right. I'm just Danny.
But I mean, in the end, we create content. I just feel like it's
Content creators.
Yeah, it is just a big
Okay.
generalized thing, but that's what we are. We create content.
I love the term
and-
creator.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is that
Content creator, yeah.
you're an influencer by the trade that you do because you are, people follow you, people see what you do, and then if you like something, then somebody else might like it too. So maybe I can see where the term comes from, influencer, but I just don't think it's the right term.
yeah.
what was
You know
the
what I
other
mean?
term that I remember hearing one time? I got called it one time too. You hear thought leader.
I have not
Thought
heard
leader,
that.
where is that
It
coming
makes
from?
it sound like I'm
Was
that-
running with the wrong crowd.
At first you
Yeah.
said thought
Yeah,
leader.
that's what I'm saying.
Oh, then I thought you said thought leader. Are you saying THOT or
No,
THOUGHT?
that's a joke I'm making. Is
Okay,
I feel
okay.
like when someone calls you that, I feel like I'm running with the wrong crowds. Well,
Yes.
I meant thought as in
Yeah,
like,
thought
as in-
you're an opinion leader, a thought leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
thought you meant like
key
No, no, I
opinion,
know.
key
I
opinion
was like,
leader
okay.
is
Not
the
running
other
with
thing
any
that they
hosts.
use,
No.
which is a really weird term as well. KOL,
So
they
far,
use that.
so good, influencer. Damn it.
That's why
Okay,
it's really
back
tough.
to influencer now.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
We're there.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
when it comes to the smartwatches, one thing that really stood out to me during the presentation was that they were talking about smartwatches in particular, but there were other categories that they alluded to that they were going to be developing for. I got excited when he said contacts because I really want that, to be honest.
So
I want smart contacts.
We still don't have the new aptX capable headphones.
What are they called? The aptX.
Wait a second. It's either that or it's some new Bluetooth protocol, but it was something where so you know that the way they work right now is one headphone is piggybacking on the other?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the new technology will allow each headphone to independently connect.
Yeah.
And therefore, because one is not actually, one discharges more than the other. And therefore, that's the reason why battery life on these is so little. Apparently, that'll up to double the battery life on like...
Really looking forward to that, for sure.
Yeah. And this is a Qualcomm? This is a Qualcomm thing?
This is Qualcomm, man. Like, ever since we did that tour, you weren't in that tour. Were you in the first tour?
I was in the tour,
Dude, I was, like, from what they're building in drones...
Yeah,
like,
that was
like,
crazy.
Damn. Yeah, like, they were building in drones. Obviously, what they're doing in mobility. For me, augmented reality is like whatever. But they're working on everything.
But they are pretty much doing a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't know about. Like, you don't really notice it. Like, when we went on the tour, that was the thing, is you realize how much technology that Qualcomm has been a part of.
Yeah.
And it's actually mind-blowing to know that there's a lot of this stuff that wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for Qualcomm. It's pretty nuts.
That's why
It's
the whole
really
powered
insane.
by Snapdragon thing, like, it needs to be
It needs to be pushed more. I just
Intel
feel like
Inside,
It does.
powered by Snapdragon. Like, we need more of that.
I just feel like that they haven't pushed themselves forward to tell the history of this company, because the company is so heavily invested in the old cell phone technologies and everything else that came to be. It's like you hear it and you're like, well, how come this is the first time I'm hearing about it? Why?
I was amazed.
Why is the story not out there?
Yeah, I was amazed. And then when I thought about it, and it's little things like you'll see powered by Qualcomm or just something on the device in which you're using, but you're so caught up in the device, you really don't pay attention to the little things like that, like what's helping this be what it is, as great as it is. And the underdog, I see it as typically.
Well, which oddly their nut is the funny part. It's just some companies. It's like LG and their smartphones. Like they don't do a great job at marketing their smartphones, and they're great phones. It's some companies are like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say maybe they're not the greatest phones, but
I'm not saying it's like there's nothing perfect per se.
But they do have good phones, but. They're completely. I feel like every year that's LG's talk. We're always like, okay, the most underrated phone this year is, and it'll be like the G series or the V series. It's always
underrated.
It's always underrated because they don't push their smartphones enough, and they're always really crappy with timing for some reason.
Yeah,
they're always falling behind other people's releases, and people just don't seem to care about those phones.
But I mean, that's the reason why people like us, like, we have to make sure that we are thought leaders, and we need to get people talking about all these phones that nobody's talking about.
Just like Michael was saying, look, Michael Fisher carries around the G7 for that wide angle all day, so we know about that. He
I'm still
loves
waiting
that
for my
wide
moment
angle,
case.
which is probably the most practical secondary lens that there is.
No, for everybody looking for what is this, the underrated influencer, that would be Mr. Michael Fisher.
Yes,
rocking a key to the G7.
Why you gotta put that I term on?
Are you leading thoughts?
From the couch.
So okay, we talked about how smartwatches. You had a thought about. I don't want to say that word anymore now that we've made the joke. You had an opinion that the circular design of a smartwatch is a lot more desirable, and I agree with you with that. But I remember making the argument back in the day that I wish smartwatches would just go radical, just go for something crazy. And wasn't there something?
You mean the Nubia Alpha?
Well, that's one, and there should be something like that.
Do not insult the Nubia Alpha, because according to them, it's not a smartwatch.
What is it supposed to be?
Do you get the same thing, Michael? Michael, you should talk about it, because you were the only other.
Yeah, I watched both of you guys' videos on that, but it looked just like a damn smartwatch to
What
me.
do you think about that?
Well, all right. Okay. You're talking about the Nubia Alpha, the wearable smartphone?
The wearable smartphone.
So you're gonna like this?
I know that. I know that thing is not going to work.
Yeah.
But
well, here's the thing. It's an interesting use of a flexible OLED display that wraps around your entire wrist.
Yeah.
It would be a lot more interesting if it didn't look like they had to saw an Apple Watch in half and put it on either side of it to make it work. But yeah, you've got to have somewhere to put the camera and the buttons and stuff. I get that, but it's just so much reference design and so not likely to be a consumer product, even though they're saying holiday 2018.
Dude, and the thing about it was just the conversation with them was like, no, this is not a smartwatch. It's a smartphone. It's a wearable smartphone, according to them. And so I'm like, okay, good. And what's the timing? What are the thoughts on this concept? Like, what the plan? They're like, this is not a concept. This is a product.
Sure, and fine. You can get away with saying that, but not at the same trade show where, like, every time I think about maybe reaching out to touch it, you have, like, a dude ready to tackle me. Because it's not ready in any sense of the word.
I was about to be like, damn, I feel like in the South Hall of CES right now.
Yes,
I
very
got
much
that
so.
vibe there. I'm like, but you're at CES.
But they only have one.
They only had
three.
2 on site that I saw. They had 3.
2 on display.
Okay.
And then they had a third one, but it was
But
weird.
it wasn't on somebody's wrist.
No,
or-
you couldn't. So first of all, everything that was on the display was a demo. You couldn't touch it. You couldn't even touch the hardware. I was like, okay, so that, and I was like, is that stainless steel? And they're like, they don't know.
Right.
Is that
And
aluminum? They don't know.
what version of Android is
wow.
this? We're not saying. What silicon does it run on? We're not saying.
Oh wow.
It's like, okay, when you're going to launch this in the next 3 months?
Sounds like vaporware to me.
And it does, and that's actually the last point I wanted to make. Like, the only reason that I stuck around and did a video on it was because it is from Nubia, and they've been around a long time. You know, they were a part of ZTE, and they were spun off, and they've made some cool stuff. They've got that gaming phone there. Like, they're
They
a
started
real
the
brand.
squeeze. They started the squeeze feature. Do you
Did
remember
they
that?
really? They
Yeah.
were the first ones
They
to do
had this
squeeze?
whole edge thing with the almost bezel-less display on one of their phones, and it was like this brick. It was made to be squeezed. Where if you squeezed it, with like,
squeezed.
but the thing is, they made it so that it would be able to detect how many fingers are on one side. So clearly your thumb's on one side, but if you were to squeeze it with like 2 fingers on the other side, it would be one function, 3, 4. It was able to detect. Yeah.
Sure.
I remember
All
that.
right.
That was
The fact that it
yeah.
can even detect how many fingers. Is that what you're saying?
yeah. It would be
Wow.
able to, yeah. The edge was able to detect how many points of pressure were being applied.
Oh,
That's
which
interesting.
Microsoft was doing that on the canceled McLaren on one of their Windows phones. That
Oh my
it's like
God,
one of my
you-
first Mr. Mobile videos when Windows Central got that
Not only
prototype.
one of the first, you did the only video on that phone.
I think Rubino did one as well, but yeah, no, like that was such cool stuff, and I am not surprised at all that it found its way into a Nubia
Yeah,
design.
This was a long time ago too. It was like my first IFA or something like that. But the thing is, like, I just want to see more of those designs just appear. Like, one of my dreams, like being the guy who uses something on an ad hoc basis. Like, I just want this to be a easy to use notification center. You know what this
Yeah.
does? I said this on the cast last week. I have it set up so that the app on the phone only sends notifications based upon a string of search terms, and that one search term I put in there is my girlfriend's name. So when my
wow.
when any
the gear?
no on the Mi Band.
Oh,
So whenever any notification comes in and the word ISA is in that notification, this vibrates.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, my girlfriend wants to talk to me. So like that's what I
Yeah.
want. I want that level of customization. But it would be great if we could just get like, you know, those slap bands. Remember those?
Yeah,
Those-
yeah.
Why can't that be just like an e-paper display and just boom, and it just turns into
Say
like a
so.
notification thing? That should be all it is.
It's because it's too simple.
True.
And that's the problem. And it's simple sometimes is the key.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But manufacturers don't want to make something simple.
They want to make things
They
that
wanna
are
give
do
us
everything.
options
Yeah,
and
they
Yeah.
want it to
Yes.
do absolutely everything.
Yeah.
But
But
see,
sometimes
that-
that's not
Yeah.
the key.
But see, that's the problem when you have engineers coming up with the names of the products or the functionality, because they could come up with a lot of things. The question is, what exactly is it that you're going to use or not?
True. What do
mean-
you all find you like yourselves using the most for your smartwatch? What is like your go-to thing that you do the most?
Fitness. Like if fitness is not there, like I have a box, like one of those watch
Mm-hmm.
cases. I have one of those full of smartwatches, and I will either drift to a Gear 3,
Yeah.
which is now this Galaxy Watch or an Apple Watch. That's all I'm going to use. Because for me, I hate the whole idea of I woke up in the morning and I have no sleep tracking because on Wear OS it's terrible unless you use that particular app, and it's not even that great.
Yeah, it's not.
And then you go train, but then you're going with another watch, and that one is not connected to the same ecosystem. And then you go, I go downtown, for example, probably for a shoot. I made all these steps, and all that information's not there. And so for me, it has to be like if I start my day, I want to start my day with one watch
Yeah.
and end it with that watch.
Understand that.
And so that for me, that's fitness is key, and those are the only 2 watches. And if I had to pick between both of them, like the Apple Watch wins by a long shot.
Yeah.
Begrudgingly.
But it's still the
I hate the design. Like, I'm like, who came up with this design? Like,
Yeah.
seriously.
horrible
just
design,
feels
but
a
the best
little
execution.
almost
It's the best.
archaic
No,
a
and not
little
not
bit, you know,
everything.
the blocky design.
Not the best execution. Like, for example, things that upset me about the Apple Watch is if they're trying to force developers to create an app for the watch. And so if you don't have an app, the notifications are very limited in interaction. And so that for me on its own is like, it's frustrating for there not to be consistency, which is one thing that I like about Wear OS, where every notification is the same. Things I like about Wear OS versus other things that I like about Watch OS are funny. I hate Apple Maps, but turn by turn, but walking directions, walking navigation is better on the Apple Watch. It's hilarious when Google, when Android Wear OS would be like, head northwest to this and that. And I'm like, do you really think that I'll be popping out a watch if I know exactly where northwest is? That's the reason why I don't know where I am. You know, I don't, there's not a compass for me to know where northwest is. And so the one thing that I like about the Apple Watches is going to be like, head left, turn right.
It's very discreet too. So like, say for instance, we're in San Francisco. I don't want people to know that maybe I don't know where I'm at. I can feel it vibrate to like, and it does it constantly, like you're going to be turning soon. And so that you know discreetly that you're going to be turning.
That's another good point, yes.
Yeah.
And you just did the motion of like
that's how it
tapping
feels
the...
like somebody's trying to
Oh,
tap to get your
he
attention.
said that.
Yeah.
I'm telling Josh, it's like
it's the best.
It
It
feels
is one
like
of the
someone's trying to get your
coolest-
attention. Like,
Yeah.
excuse
That
me.
is the alarm that you can have in the morning.
Yeah.
Because that's the other
Yeah.
reason why I use this, because it has a very strong vibration motor.
and it's subtle. It's not too hard, but it's definitely enough to get your
But it's
attention.
you know,
got
I
different
was having
levels,
such a
too.
problem
Yeah.
waking up in the morning that I almost got that shock bracelet.
Oh God.
This is the
Glad
next
you're
best
still
thing.
here with us.
Yeah, this is the next best thing.
Yeah.
But apparently the Apple Watch has a much better way of
Taptic
doing
engine
it.
is really cool.
Yeah.
It's
It
really
is.
cool. I agree in, like, I loved Michael's review of the first Apple Watch.
Bill Michaels?
Particularly his whole perspective of, you have the rotating crown, but then you have to interact with the display instead of interacting with the button. Like, who came up with that design of the user interface?
So you don't like spinning the
No, so
okay.
spin it, but then have that be a button, not that you have to spin the rotating crown and then
And then
touch the screen.
display, yeah.
Ah,
That seems
gotcha.
counter.
That's counterintuitive, and the same
I
thing goes
gotcha.
with the Galaxy Watch,
Yeah.
where you rotate the bezel, but then you can't press the bezel or something
Yeah.
like that. So if you remember Blackberries when they had the wheel, it was you would rotate the wheel and then
And click
boom,
it, yeah.
select
Yeah.
with that, not change
makes
your.
sense.
They could easily just make that rotating thing touch sensitive, so you can rotate it and just tap it.
Oh, like
That
the
makes
Tick
sense.
Watch.
Yeah.
The
Rotate
first
it,
Tick
tap
Watch.
it, yeah.
Did you ever use the Tick Watch 1 and 2?
The first one to no. This is the first time I've ever.
Oh, those were awesome because you still have to interact with the screen, and that will always be a pain point for me when it comes to smartwatches. Because if I'm going to spend that much time going like this, I might as well just take out my damn phone.
Yeah.
Right.
That's something I've always hated about smartwatches personally. But the Tick Watch had this little like touch sensitive area on the side, so you could just go like that on the, and it would scroll, and it was kind of nice. They called it the tickle.
Did you ever accidentally?
I'm done.
Did you ever accidentally trigger that or?
No, never actually. It wasn't. It was just high enough on the body that your wrist wouldn't like
Ah,
cause it to
got you.
happen,
Okay.
but you had to deliberately go like this to do it.
Okay.
It was kind of nice, and just little things like that just make me happy when it comes
Yeah.
to smartwatches, and we don't get enough of that. Like the last thing was this, and the
Yeah.
secondary screen on the TicWatch Pro. Those are the those are the last innovations. So if something like this will feed even better innovation from these smartwatches because they can be used more often,
Yeah.
then I want that to be the case.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
me, I ever since the first Pebble, which was my first smartwatch, I can't go back to a regular watch.
Yeah.
But again, for me, honestly, I'm still frustrated with the way notifications are portrayed. I feel even that first Pebble, that first user interface was for me the best one when it came to notifications. It hasn't been replicated. Even now with Fitbit, it's not the same.
Yeah.
I don't like it. And so I miss that from the Pebble. Like for me, it's not just that it was my first watch, it's that it did everything that was essential right.
Actually, I'm pretty excited. We talked about the new Wear OS earlier in the show, and I'm actually rather excited to see what happens with this new generation of watches because I think manufacturers, if Fossil is any indication, manufacturers have finally woken up to the desire on the part of a lot of users to have a rotating side button. And that really does. I mean, I like that better than anything else now.
to the point where you were willing to use that G Watch, man.
The LG Watch Sport.
I was shocked.
Oh my goodness!
Because for a while it was like the only thing you could have with a rotating side button.
Watch so
but
much.
as big as that watch was, the RSB was like a soup can sticking out the side of it. But it lets you get such an easy grip on it. You always knew where it was, and so like I would just fly through my messages, or I'd fly through the feed, and like you're not getting your finger in the way of the display.
No.
It's like it's always fast, it's responsive, and it's cool. And that paired with all the optimizations we're talking about now has me much more excited for this coming generation of Wear OS watches, because I think they're going to be more usable and more useful than ever.
No, and I like how much they paid attention to luxury brands, where it's like,
Yes,
listen,
that's what I was about to say too.
if it's a Tag Heuer, if it's a Mont Blanc, if it's whatever watch it is, and people can't see the watch face, all they see is blank.
Yeah.
That totally takes away from the experience. Like, the watch face is everything. It's what makes a watch stand apart the most in a regular watch.
Mm-hmm.
Are those that do like labels but want a smart watch that kind of appeals more to fashion?
Yeah.
Such as, I'm interested to see what they create with Louis Vuitton. Like, I don't think they've ever had a smart watch, have they?
No, they have the first one.
They have, okay. So I hadn't seen it, but I think it's interesting that,
I'm not a
they're gonna be
brand
in
type
there.
person when it comes to this kind of stuff.
I'm not either, but there are people.
Okay, well, fair.
yeah.
Because
Like,
you were
watch
asking
it.
that earlier, Danny. Like, what brand would you want to see something
Yeah.
from? Yeah.
Oh,
But
that's
it's
true,
tough
that's
though,
true.
because you have to think, if you go out and buy like a Rolex,
Yeah.
right? It's still a Rolex 5 years
And
from
it'll
now.
be a Rolex.
Yeah, and forever.
My dad has had a Rolex for 30 years.
But
dude.
if you spend $2,000 like on a Louis Vuitton smartwatch, what is that going to be in 2 years?
No.
It's going to be
And
nothing.
I wonder if that's one of the
Really?
main reasons why
Because-
they didn't
'cause
make
of the
significant
OS.
changes to the processor and stuff. I mean, they were like, connectivity is great. This is like, there was nothing to update. That for me was a weird argument. You know? I don't know if it's because they don't want to make what's already out there obsolete so quickly or what.
Maybe. Because,
Yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I was laughing about that. The gentleman, I forget his name, who was giving the presentation. I love smartwatches. I have 100 of them.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, and you're about to make all of them obsolete. Like,
Yeah.
right now. Your job is to make all of them irrelevant.
Well, but that's the thing. Let's be honest. Were they great?
Nah.
No.
I think they all can admit that they haven't been that great. And,
They
and like
were
I said,
not
we
great.
talked about it. Like smart watches have been stagnant for years now.
Yeah.
Literally, that's why I think this chipset is such a big deal, because
Yes, for me it
it's
is.
going to reinvigorate this entire smartwatch industry again. Because I mean, there was just no reason to make smartwatches, I think, in the last year.
So
There was
which
just no
brand
reason.
are you gunning for then?
I don't know. I think I kind of agree with the generalized thing. The Fossil Group will probably make the best range of watches that are affordable,
Yeah.
I think. But there's also other brands that are out there that are still
Isn't it
doing but
really,
I think the fashion brands won't do super
dear
well.
Motorola, please. Please.
I don't think
Reinvigorate.
anything can recreate that magic of the first
The
Moto
Moto
360.
360 continues to be
Even
my
with the
favorite
tire, you know, I
smartwatch
would-
of all time.
Yeah.
And please stop complaining about the damn flat tire.
No, but even with that, I think there was a charm to that watch still.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. Like the screen was so in your face.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was about.
Because there was
that
nothing
display.
else. It was the Oreo, right?
Yeah.
Like it
But
was.
design too. I think design was key on that watch.
Yeah.
It looked really good.
You ever used the Falster, the Skagen Falster?
I have not.
It's
I
actually
have not
really
tried
nice,
any of
like-
their watches, but
I
they
hate
look
that I didn't
great.
see it at IFA.
Yeah, the thing is, the Falster 2 was announced at IFA just ahead of the
But why? But that's what I
3100.
was thinking. Why did
sucks.
they even release these watches without the new chipset? That's actually mind blowing. Especially if they're partners,
Mm-hmm.
why would they release this and not wait for the 3100, which they already knew about? Obviously, if they were partners, why
Are
do
you
that?
are you confirming that, Michael?
Yeah, well, now that the 3100 is finally dropped, this would be the time for Casio to drop a press release saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, that watch we announced has a 3100 in it."
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah,
but
'cause
I'm
maybe
just checking that
Skagen.
now.
Wait a second, but it's Casio. Why are you expecting that?
You dogging my Cas, bro? don't
you
hate
know
on
what-
my brand.
Are you
do know
Casio
what-
dogging him?
Do you know what processor was on the first Pro whatever?
The first Pro Trek
Yeah.
was probably the Snap 400.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
probably they never told anybody what it was. It was so weird.
Oh, Casio just hasn't released its
They never
what
do.
Silicon's powering
They
it.
never do.
Oh, but you can just download. You can put on, like Z CPU or whatever. What do you use to find out hardware and Android devices?
Oh my God, wrong crowd.
Ada 64 CPU Z. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. So we should. I don't know. I don't have the.
I don't know. Maybe the
F30, so we
Folster
can't
2
do it.
actually has the 3100 in it.
Hey, get somebody on the phone from Casio right now. Call them. All right? Who cares? Call them right now. Wake them up out of sleep.
I would put my money down on a Folster 2, especially if it had it. Yeah.
On a fossil?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could agree.
Yeah, the Folster and the Skagen and all that. So I would pretty much go for that.
But it's exciting though to have another wave of smartwatches. At least
Also,
if
if
they're
Uniqlo made a watch, I mean,
Yeah.
I would just scoop that up.
I think it just
Yeah.
opens up for a lot other manufacturers that aren't the typical Android Wear, smartwatch makers.
Yeah.
I think they'll come into the game now because of the fact that I think they can do something unique with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Just like the whole
So who's
sports
missing?
brand thing.
Who's missing?
Samsung making another Wear OS watch.
Fair.
Yeah, and so you're gonna have a lot of people come in the sports brands now. Like they said, the unnamed sports brand is supposed to make a watch, with all these new sports features, and I think that's great. That if GPS and sports and tracking can be better, and just like Jaime was saying, if you can finally now use a Wear OS watch that does everything, that kind of changes the game and puts pressure on Apple to make even a better product than what they have. Because
We're
have
gonna
to.
find out in a couple days.
Yeah,
Because I'm even concerned. Like I've been using a Polar M600 for training in some cases. It's probably my favorite Wear OS watch, and I'm like, I don't learn until now that that Polar could not tinker the algorithm for the fitness part. So I'm like, was this really a Polar watch or not? Whereas now with these changes, every OEM was going to be able to do their own stuff, their own algorithms, everything.
You had a thought.
Do you think more clothing brands might enter into it now, especially with their approach to try to get the fashionistas and everything like that? Do you think?
that's why I was saying Adidas, because I think Adidas would be
that is
perfect
true.
for this type of watch, because
they've never done wearables. I was thinking more Under Armour.
no, and I get it. I know that they haven't done it before, but that's what I'm thinking, that somebody like Adidas might enter this market,
Yeah.
because like you said, this is, if smartwatches become hot again, especially in the millennials and that kind of thing, where shoes and sneakers now and like this fashion thing is really popping off right now. This could be really huge for somebody like Adidas to come into, make some different brands. You have to think like, okay, well, what if like Kanye gets into a smartwatch, or like that's partnered with Adidas or Drake, or like whoever that's out there, that could be a big deal. I think.
True.
I
Very
agree.
true.
Well, I think we've thoroughly exhausted the. I was wondering how far we would get with smartwatches for a 1-hour podcast, and then 20 minutes in the middle were about influencers, but it's
Sorry about that,
perfectly
guys.
fine. No, it's all good. It's just a great time to be able to hang out with everybody. So thank you so much for being on. Why don't we just go down the line, and you can tell our audience where to find you and everything. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
All right, cool. Well, you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, all under Tech Me Out. That's TECHME 0UT.
There we go.
Let's make it confusing.
Right. The O is taken for
I'm
me.
gonna do the standard outro after the fact. So go to
Do it.
Danny.
Okay, so you can find me youtube.com/Danny Winget, WINGET, and then social, everything is all at Super Scientific. Long story to that, but yes, it's a long handle, Super Scientific.
And then a returning Michael Fisher over there.
Oh my
I'm sure everyone's going nuts that you've come
goodness.
back to the weekly. Yeah.
Having the original host, man. That's
Man, you keep talking me up so much. I ain't going to come back and I ain't going to live up to none of that.
over the concept of the podcast, because back in the day I was like, nah. And Michael was like, no, I love podcasting. I want to do it. It's
Gotta
my
do
baby.
it. Damn right. I was going to ask you, Josh, if you were making use of this video, which makes us, as far as I can tell, look like
We're
a
very
bunch of
dark now, aren't
Illuminati.
we? Yeah.
Plotting the world's demise.
I'll be able to doctor it, but it got darker as the
Definitely.
Yeah.
Got darker as the mood progressed.
Yes.
Exactly.
Those lights work?
Yeah.
They do,
Yeah,
but
that's right.
I'll just. I was looking at it the entire time, and I kept thinking to myself, I'm just gonna have to bring up that exposure slider. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna have to bring that up. So.
Just going to have to pop those, bump the satch and up the trast, bruh.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So anyway, you want to know where you can find me? The Mr. Mobile, THEMRMOBILE, everywhere on the internet, with the exception of Snapchat, because I abandoned it
Really?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram stories now when I do those things.
you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm finally growing up.
Welcome to the mature
Good for you.
audience.
Thanks.
And then he's going to do one Facebook story, and we're like, oh.
No, never. But Josh, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be back in my comfortable little zone here. Thank you for maintaining the podcast.
I'm doing my best.
And you're not maintaining it, evolving it to the next generation.
Well, we'll see.
You are one of my faves, so thank you.
Well, thank you, Michael. That's really sweet of you.
Of course.
All right. And on that fade, thank you so much for joining us on this edition of The Weekly, where we talked about the Qualcomm Snapdragon 3100 and what it means for smartwatches. You can follow me across social media at JVTechT, and that is JV Loves Tech and loves to drink tea. And then, of course, you have Jaime Rivera over at Jaime_Rivera on all social media as well. Don't forget that underscore. All of our special guests have just given their handles as well, but if you want to find their links, make sure you go to the show notes for this episode in order to find all of the hyperlinks for your favorite YouTubers we had on this show. And remember that The Weekly is just as much a conversation as it is a show, so make sure you make your voices heard either in the comment sections or by emailing us at pocketcast@pocketnow.com. You can also tag the podcast on Twitter with the hashtag PNWeekly. Pocket Now is also on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and YouTube in English and Espanol, where you can find more news on the Pocket Now Daily and Pocket Now Audio every weekday. We're also on pocketnow.com for all of your mobile tech needs. We would really appreciate your feedback through all of the different podcast streaming networks, because without you and your voice, we wouldn't have been able to make this show for your eyes and ears for 323 weeks straight. And with that, we're going to go ahead and call it on this edition of The Weekly. Take care, and we'll talk tech again next week.